Some of the books of the Hebrew Bible contain descriptions of the physical world. Some claim that these descriptions can be part of developing a history of science during Levant's Iron Age. Others hold that the descriptions are not themselves scientific, and can as such have no place in the history of science. Pan-Babylonianists regard the Hebrew Bible as entirely derived from the culture and mythology of Babylonia as it stood during the 6th century BCE, during the Babylonian captivity. Current mainstream views suggests the possibility that some elements, particularly of the Torah, are independent of Babylonian influence, dating perhaps as early as the 9th or 10th century BCE, but the significant influence of Babylonian mythology and Babylonian cosmology on the worldview presented in the Tanakh is still beyond doubt. The Christian New Testament is a product of the Roman era and reflects the worldview of that epoch in some instances, e.g., in references to astrology or demonic possession. Cosmology and astronomy. Biblical cosmology provides sporadic glimpses that may be stitched together to form a biblical impression of the physical universe. There have been comparisons between the Bible, with passages such as from the Genesis creation narrative, and the astronomy of classical antiquity more generally. The worldview of the Tanakh appears to be that of a flat earth in a geocentric universe, a view in line with Mesopotamian astronomy of the period. Translates as circle of the earth, thus referring to a round earth. Critics, on the other hand, assert that it meant a flat earth, claiming that if Isaiah wanted to refer to a spherical earth, he would have used the term Kada in Hebrew. However, the term Kada is in truth non-specific, as it can also be used as in Isaiah chapter 29 verse 3 to denote a flat circle. The spherical shape of the earth was established in the West only in Hellenistic astronomy, in the 3rd century BCE. The first suggestions of heliocentrism in Europe also date to the Hellenistic period but remained speculative until the 16th century CE. Recent measurements from satellites show that the Earth is, in fact, an oblate spheroid flattened at the poles. Lactantius and Cosmas Indicoupolists insisted on the flat Earth model on scriptural authority as late as the 5th to 6th century, long after the spherical shape of the Earth had been deduced in Hellenistic astronomy, and had been generally accepted by the fellow Christians. In the reception of heliocentrism after Copernicus, biblical references 1 Chronicles chapter 16 verse 30, Psalm chapter 93 verse 1, Psalm chapter 96 verse 10, Psalm chapter 104 verse 5, and Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 5 were cited for biblical support of geocentrism. Chronicles chapter 16 verse 30 states that the world also shall be stable, that it be not moved. Psalm chapter 104 verse 5 says, "Who laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be removed forever." Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 5 states that the sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he arose. Galileo defended heliocentrism, and claimed it was not contrary to those scripture passages. He took Augustine's position on Scripture. The most supportive Bible passage of the view was Job chapter 26 verse 7, where Job declares that God hangs the earth on nothing, which for its time was very close to how modern astronomers would describe the Earth's position. There are passages that denote the moon as being luminous. Some argue that, as in Babylonian cosmography, the Hebrew Bible imagines Earth covered by a solid sky dome to which the stars were attached. Nevertheless, others have argued this was before the fall of man and flood of Noah's time. Thus the atmosphere may have changed significantly since that time. Still others suggest that the firmament was actually beneath the earth. Augustus Hopkins Strong presented another explanation of all the alleged inaccuracies reflected in the Hebrew Bible in his work, Systematic theology, the doctrine of God. Strong pointed out idiomatic usage of moonlight and sunset of still prevalent in current times as in ancient times, and that the word firmament has been used in literature where no one would suggest the author believed in flat earth of solid firmament theology. He illustrated the point by asking if Dickens believed the firmament was a piece of solid masonry, when in his American Notes 72, describes a prairie sunset. The decline of day here was very gorgeous, tinging the firmament deeply with red and gold, up to the very keystone of the arch above used. Quote, however, it is possible that Dickens was writing this passage with a conscious or unconscious reliance on the biblical motif itself. Many scholars generally accept that such metaphors in the Bible reflect the author's underlying belief in the literal truth of this cosmological model. Medicine contains instructions to dispose of human waste away from the population in order to keep locations holy. The Old Testament contains a variety of health-related instructions, such as isolating infected people and washing after handling a dead body. In addition, the Book of Leviticus provides instructions on handling of wet and dry plant seeds that may have come into contact with an animal's corpse. Closing parenthesis. The Old Testament also contains various cleansing rituals. One suggested ritual, for example, deals with the proper procedure for cleansing a leper, involving extensive cleansing and personal hygiene, but also includes sacrificing a bird and lambs with the addition of using the blood to symbolize that the afflicted has been cleansed. There is a contention that the degree of effectiveness of the Mosaic dietary restrictions and hygienic strictures indicates, and on the extreme end, it has taken science thousands of years to discover what the Bible taught all along. However, many civilizations that had large cities had public sanitation systems, such as ancient Egypt, the Aegean civilization, Harappan civilization, the Hittites, and the Elamites. Modern science has found that certain proverbs contain advice toward sound mental and physical well-being. Agriculture and ecology. The Torah prescribes intercropping, a practice often associated with sustainable agriculture and organic farming in modern agricultural science. Speaks of leaving fields fallow for a year every 7 years. Closing parenthesis. Biology. There have been comparisons between the Bible, with passages such as from the Genesis creation narrative, with concepts based on evolutionary theory. Relationship between religion and science. The relationship between religion and science has been a focus of the demarcation problem, which in philosophy attempts to draw the line between science and non-science. Some scholars, like Thomas Berry and Brian Swimmer, argue that the two are interconnected. Others, like Stephen Jay Gould and the National Academy of Sciences, take the view that each occupies separate, non-overlapping magisterium. According to this view, statements about the physical world made by science and religion rely on different methodologies. Science relies on the scientific method as a body of techniques used for investigating natural phenomena. To be termed scientific, a claim must be based on observable, empirical, and measurable evidence, which is subject to systematic principles of reasoning. In contrast, much of Christianity relies on biblical inspiration, a doctrine in Christian theology concerned with the divine origin of the Bible and what the Bible teaches. Skeptics argue that the various biblical statements are at odds with scientific knowledge, particularly with regard to its claims regarding the origin of the cosmos, astronomy, and biological evolution. The conflict thesis is the argument that religion and science are at constant warfare with one another. This is exemplified by such examples as the persecution of Galileo Galilei, the public debate between T.H. Huxley and Bishop Samuel Wilberforce, the John Scobes trial, and the current controversy between the teaching of evolution and creationism. Religious texts themselves can be the subject of scholarly inquiry via biblical criticism.